All right, what's up, guys? We are back. We are now discussing the biggest winners in the 2022 NFL Draft. And for teams of the fan bases, you know who you are. Think Baltimore Ravens, New York Jets. We're going to discuss all of it. So there's a lot to dive into, and we're going to discuss more than just those couple teams. But without further ado, let's dive right in. So when you look at the New York Jets, they are in a division with the Buffalo Bills. And to a degree, you're always going to draft kind of what you need to win the division. And what I mean by that is in 2017, this is just a perfect example I have off the top of my head. The Minnesota Vikings went 13-3. They had Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. The Packers immediately drafted Jair Alexander and I want to say Kevin King. My point is, his first two picks, they went corners. The New York Jets take Sauce Gardner, arguably the best corner in the draft at 4. Great job. They need to get Zach Wilson some weapons. What do? They get Garrett Wilson. They also know they haven't had a pass rush in quite some time. So what do? They get Jermaine Johnson. And then in the second round in addition to all of that, as if that wasn't enough, they get a running back in Breece Hall, who I think he was not a lot, but I do think he was better than Kenneth Walker. He's had 3,000 rushing yards the past 2 years, over 40 touchdowns. And now you're going to have Zach Wilson say, all right, Breece, here you go. 20 times, 25 times a game. Here's the rock. In addition to having Michael Carter. And I can't say enough how much I love what the New York Jets are doing. Now, for the Baltimore Ravens, this is almost unfair what the Ravens have done in the first couple rounds. The Baltimore Ravens, I praise them a lot on the channel because it starts with Eric DeCosta and everything else goes down. Eric DeCosta, John Harbaugh, they are a consistently successful franchise, and there's a reason for that. 14 overall, we're going to let everybody else take, you want to get the corners out of the way, fine. Could we use a corner? Yeah, but, let the receiver run happen. Let Drake London, Wilson, Olave, and Williams go. Jordan Davis go. That's fine, because we'll take Kyle Hamilton. And now we have him and Marcus Williams in the back half of the defense, along with Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. And then at 25, they get one of the best center prospects over the past 5 years in Tyler Linderbaum. There's a picture that they already took of Kyle and Tyler Linderbaum with Harbaugh, with DeCosta, and it's like, that's not, that picture shouldn't even happen. Like, those guys should not be in the same draft because of how good they are. What I mean is, you shouldn't have those two talented of a players in the same draft picture. The Ravens continuously win the draft process every year. And there's a reason why in the John Harbaugh era, they've missed the playoff, or they've had a bad record under 500 twice. And it was in 2015 when Joe Flacco tore his ACL, and it was pretty similar to what happened last year where half the team was hurt. There's a reason why they win every single year and routinely, consistently. David Ojabo, perfect example. Yeah, he's going to have a torn Achilles, but when you're going for that playoff and that Super Bowl run this year, which is very possible with the Baltimore Ravens if they stay healthy, that is the key factor here. If J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards don't get hurt before the season starts and you have a 32-year-old Le'Veon Bell running a 5'6", 40 out there with Devontae Freeman, it was just a bad situation for them last year. David Ojabo and Odafe Owe coming off the edge with Calais Campbell on the defensive line. What more could you ask? And by the way, that's not including their third-round pick, Travis Jones. The Ravens, there's a reason why they are what they are, year in and year out. Now, another team that's doing very, very good in the draft process so far, the Detroit Lions. To get Aiden Hutchinson and Jamison Williams on the first night, and to fleece the Minnesota Vikings, the division rival Minnesota Vikings, you can't ask for more. But then they get Josh Pascal, defensive edge from Kentucky. You're building a foundation here in Detroit. Dan Campbell, with as cliche as it is with him and the biting kneecaps, I love what they're doing. I really do. Kirby Joseph was just, to me, it was just a pick, but when you have those top three of Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, and Pascal, those are three starters in the top 45, technically 46 picks. How many teams can honestly say they've done that? Of course, the Jets have, but How many teams can say they've done that in a draft? Now, another big winner, and one of my favorite drafts so far, is what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. They lost last year to the Cincinnati Bengals. They have no intention of losing again before the Super Bowl, because their goal every year at this point with Patrick Mahomes is to win a Super Bowl. They have 2 first-round picks, 29. They trade up with the New England Patriots, a team in their conference that very much needs corner help, and they take a consensus top 15 player in Trent McDuffie. And yeah, they gave up a 3 and a 4 to move up 8 spots, but does it matter? Trent McDuffie's a beast. I mean, he's a good football player. And then they take George Karlaftis. It's seemingly for a while that Kansas City has needed edge help. Of course, they've been good on the interior defensive line with Chris Jones, but I think Karlaftis is the guy that will finally solidify that. He's the guy out of the past 5 years that I felt the most confident in for them. And then last night, they trade with the Patriots to take. The Patriots took Tyquan Thornton. I released a video on that already. Awful pick for the Patriots there, but they trade back to get Sky Moore. I don't know how you can't praise that pick. I mean, you get Sky Moore, immediately tweets at Patrick Mahomes like, "What's up?" Like, can't wait to link, or whatever the tweet was. Along with Juju Smith-Schuster, along with Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Travis Kelce, this whole offseason for them has been tremendous. They get great value for Tyreek Hill, who's 28 years old. They turn it into a top 15 player at a position they need. They also got Justin Reed. And then another good player they took at 62, Brian Cook from Cincinnati. And then my favorite pick of the draft so far, well, in certain where I think the most value was, they get one of my favorite prospects in Leo Chenal, a linebacker from Wisconsin. I mean, the Chiefs and Ravens, there's a reason that they're the top of the AFC year after year after year. Now, the Ravens had some unfortunate injuries this past year, so that they were exempt from that in 2021. But the Chiefs have been to 4 straight AFC Championship games at minimum, with 2 Super Bowl appearances, including a Super Bowl win in '54. They're an A-plus great organization in terms of from top to bottom what they do. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, by the way, this is going to sound very cliche, but I mean, we know what they do with receivers. Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, who had 1,400 yards back in 2018. AB. All of them. Mike Wallace, Santonio Holmes, Chase Claypool, Martavis Bryant for a little bit of time. And now they get George Pickens to add to it. I mean, you can't... The thing is with George Pickens, normally I would say, if he were to go to, we'll just say Indy instead of Pittsburgh, it's good value. I think Matt Ryan can make something out of him, and he'll be a good B option to Michael Pittman. But with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the success they've had, and the consistent success they've had for nearly 2 decades now at the receiver position, you can even toss Hines Ward in there if you want. It's hard not to project Pickens and immediately think, okay, let's just write it off. He's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I love what the Steelers have been doing. And then they also get good value in the 3rd round of DeMarvin Leal. I mean, Steelers fans probably aren't going to want to hear this, but Cameron Hayward's getting old. At some point, you're going to have to look to replace him. I don't know if Leal is that player, but I like the value there. And I think they've been killing it. Oh, and by the way, in terms of draft winners, Eagles fans, for as much criticizing as you guys have done, and understandably, especially with the Jalen Reagor pick over the past couple years, and Arcega-Whiteside over DK, Howie's hit not just a home run, he's hit a grand slam in this draft. No matter who you are, I feel like as a person, there's things you're not good at. If Howie pretty much said, like, look, I'm not comfortable drafting receivers, I'll take A.J. Brown. You get him for a 1st and a 3rd round pick, and you still get Jordan Davis. You still get Cam Jurgens, the potential heir to to Jason Kelce's throne. And you take Nakobe Dean. They are killing it. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles are having themselves a draft of drafts. I love what they're doing. I love what Howie Roseman's doing. And if in this scenario, Jalen Hurts isn't the answer for them, then that next quarterback's walking into one hell of a situation. And enough credit can't be given to Howie Roseman for this draft. I mean, imagine walking off that bus and the first player you see is Jordan Davis. I mean, you're immediately thinking like, whew, I don't care who you are. You're just thinking like, I got to go against that guy for 4 quarters. I'm going to be in for a long day. And obviously, just from a personal standpoint, we wish Nakobe Dean, he fell because of the injury rumors. We want him to be healthy. We want him to have a good, sustained, long, successful NFL career. But another team that is doing very good, and they need it because their roster is not good, is the Atlanta Falcons. I liked the selection of Drake London because my thinking with the Atlanta Falcons is you're going to bring in a young quarterback next year. You're going to have Drake London and Kyle Pitts to throw to immediately. Instead of that quarterback saying or instead of a coach saying to the quarterback, hey, you need to hit, a spot where you can barely fit a football through a mailbox, you can just throw it up. Drake London and Kyle Pitts come down with it. And not every throw needs to be, fitting a football through a mailbox, by the way. But in addition to Drake London, you get Arnold Ebiketie, and the Falcons have had trouble at edge for a while. They had Vic Beasley have like one 15-sack season. He led the league, and since then it hasn't been a lot of good from them. They tried to have Dwight Freeney in there for a little bit. So they take Arnold Ebiketie. They take one hell of an athlete in Troy Anderson from Montana State. And then they had another pick that I really loved. And D'Angelo Malone. Now, Desmond Ritter, I'll address that in a second. But to have D'Angelo Malone and Arnold Ebiketie from one class. Admittedly, I like both prospects. But with the way that the NFL draft works, and this isn't just with the Falcons, I'm not just singling them out, the likelihood that both are going to be long-term 12, 13 sack players is extremely low. But I would be surprised if one of them aren't at least a long-term starter and you didn't get at least one player that's going to have double-digit sacks for 5-6 seasons between one of the two. For Desmond Ritter, that selection I like because it's in the 3rd round. It's closer to the middle of the 3rd round. You're 10 picks in. But with Desmond, if he comes in year 1 here, if he comes in and just, for lack of a better words here, if he just shits the bed, all right, well, we're probably not going to be that good of a team next year. We can more than likely take a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And with the Falcons picks here, they're in for the long haul. I mean, Drake London, Arnold Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone, I think they're going to be good players. But year 1, those guys aren't going to have... Drake London's not going to be Justin Jefferson. He's not going to be Jamar Chase, especially with Marcus Mariota throwing them the football. And Arnold Ebiketie is not going to be Michael Parsons. Neither is D'Angelo Malone. But year 2, year 3, year 4, those guys are going to be good starters. So while the Atlanta Falcons are probably going to suck this year, and while it's probably going to look initially like, well, the rookies aren't very good, I love the long-term outlook. And even with the selection of Desmond Ritter, if he sucks, hey, we're going to probably have a top 5 pick next year. And by taking Desmond in the 3rd round, it saves jobs. They didn't take him in the 2nd round at 38 where they did with Arnold Ebiketie. They took him in the 3rd round where if you take a 3rd-round quarterback, who cares what happens? I mean, that's the mentality of NFL teams and NFL front offices, is if we take a quarterback in the 3rd round, I hate to say this, but who really gives a shit? If this guy throws 1 career pass, if he throws 1,000 career passes, it doesn't matter because there's little risk involved. If you get a franchise quarterback in the 3rd round, you're a hero. And if you don't, there's really no loss to it. But another team's draft, and this is a team, since I started this channel and I started doing videos, I have not said this about them once. But, and I'm glad this is changing because I think it'd be really cool to have them be around for, just to be in success rather than just, maybe win a division title here and there. But the Houston Texans, I love what they're doing. Derek Stingley Jr., that is a home run or strikeout pick, and I like that they're going with that. They didn't take a safe pick who they thought. They went for the home run. Kenyon Green, although it may have been a little bit early, this is a team that couldn't run the football at all last year. And now you're going to have 3 linemen with Laramie Tunsil, with Kenyon Green on the inside, and then Titus Howard on the other side. 3 good linemen, and inevitably the yards per carry will go up at least a little. You're looking at a brighter future for the Houston Texans. Then early in the 2nd round, they get Jalen Petrie. It's never bad to have secondary. And then they get John Mechie to get Davis Mills some weapons. I mean, I love what the Texans are doing. Is it top of the class like the Baltimore Ravens? No, but they're still having a very good class in their own right. Christian Harris, linebacker, Alabama. It's probably going to be a starter for a couple years. I can't give the Texans enough credit. Now, for another team, by the way, that didn't select until the second round, they've only had 2 picks so far, but I loved them both. And that's the Denver Broncos. You take Nick Bonito and Greg Dulcich, the tight end from UCLA. Both, to me, for that value, that late, both A-plus picks, especially Bonito. Bonito had a higher pressure rate in his final year at Oklahoma than Aiden Hutchinson, than KT, than, of course, Trayvon Walker, all of them. He had the highest, as far as I know, the highest pressure rate in the draft. And now you're going to place him on a defense opposite of Bradley Chubb. I love it. I mean, the Denver Broncos, to be selecting that late to get a player, and by the way, Randy Gregory's in there too, to have a player of that impact, to me, big thumbs up for him. There's a lot of drafts that I've liked, and these ones that we've mentioned highlight it. The New York Giants, I loved their first round. Their second and third, I was kind of underwhelmed. I did not like Wan'Dale Robinson at 43 when a lot of other players were there. A lot of other receivers, mainly this 52 to 54 run with Pickens, Pierce, and Moore. So I was kind of underwhelmed with the Giants after the first round, and the guard from North Carolina. I didn't care for that either. And even Cordell Flott. It's kind of underwhelming, but when you get KT and Evan Neal, it's kind of hard to complain about the rest of the draft class. But, by the way, another good pick in the third round. I think this team's only had one pick so far because of the Devontae Adams trade. But the Las Vegas Raiders getting Dylan Parham at 90. You know, you look at some of these other players, like Zach Carter, like Kirby Joseph, Brian Robinson Jr., Logan Bruss. How many of those guys can you honestly say, and we can go the other way too, how many of those guys can you honestly say, I think they can be good long-term starters? With Dylan Parham, you can. Also, the Indianapolis Colts have also had a solid draft, all things considered. No first-round pick because of the Carson Wentz trade. But you get Alec Pierce to be the Robin to Michael Pierce's Batman, who I think can be a 1,200 or 1,300-yard receiver. And then, of course, you have Jonathan Taylor in that offense. So, inevitably, Alec Pierce is going to get a lot of one-on-ones because defenses aren't going to sit here and say, man, Jonathan Taylor's on the field, Michael Pittman's on the field. You know, we got to worry about Alec Pierce. That's not going to happen. And I think Alec Pierce can be a guy that beats those one-on-ones. Like that selection. I like that pick. And by the way, their third-round pick, I couldn't have liked more. Jelani Woods, the big athletic tight end. Matt Ryan, just throw it up. He'll go up and get it. Love it. And that's, of course, with having one of the best running backs in all of football behind him. And then to top it off, Nick Cross. To get Nick Cross, the safety, that late. For the Colts not having a first-round pick. Oh, and I even missed Bernard Ryman. Sorry. By the way, Colts fans, apologize for that. I even missed Bernard Ryman. That's a very good class, all things considered. So I love what the Colts are doing. There's a little middle ground, but, you know, it seems like with the videos we've been doing, it's either like love or hate what a team's doing. But the teams that we've discussed in this video, I absolutely love what every single one of them are doing. Especially the Ravens. Especially the Jets. And the Colts, for not having a first-round pick, have killed it. So have the Broncos. And the Atlanta Falcons, I kind of hate to sound like this, but for as bad as their 2022 season will probably be, they've done a good job in terms of getting long-term pieces. So, I think it's going to wrap up today's video for the winners of the 2022 NFL Draft, but we will continue with the draft content. It's going to be a lot of the regular scripted videos with the all-22 footage coming up real soon in terms of discussing everything. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed part 2 for today. So if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel because it would mean the world. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.